Thanks everyone for tuning in to the HR Leadership Podcast. Today I'm very excited to have Margaret Spence with us. She is the founder of the Inclusion Learning Lab. And we've got a few pretty cool topics to talk about around AI governance and some other HR related topics. So we'll jump right into it. And Margaret, if you don't mind kind of starting off, if you just kind of give us a little background about yourself and tell us about what kind of work you're doing.
Yeah. So thank you, Aaron, for inviting me to your podcast. So I am the founder of the Inclusion Learning Lab. We have been around for a few years, but my consulting practice, we are entering our 28th year. February the 1st will be 28 years that we have been doing HR, talent consulting, and risk management consulting for client companies. And our main focus is on up-leveling and making sure that talent pipelines are resilient, talent pipelines are inclusive, and that the talent pipeline includes women and women at all various facets of the talent spectrum, meaning entry-level, mid-level, management, executive, and on to C-level women in the workplace. Our primary focus right now is around AI and AI governance and how that is going to affect the future of work. I'm also a facilitator for the Association of Training and Development. I facilitate several programs for them, one of which is the AI in instructional design and talent development. So looking to the future, I'm always asking the question, who is going to be left behind? Who's going to be forgotten in the workforce? And who needs to have the opportunity to be upskilled to maintain the future of work?
Nice. So when you talk talent pipeline, does that include the recruiting sourcing side, or is it more starting kind of once they're in the talent pipeline within the company of the growth path?
Yeah, over the years, companies have hired us at different phases, but majority of what we do now is working within the pipeline once the individual is already working with the organization. We've done things like setting up recruiting programs for specific talent. We've also done work with setting up internship programs and setting up mentorship programs where maybe from a high school level, we work a lot in the insurance sector, and the insurance industry has a problem with talent. So we've worked with organizations to set up early career programs to highlight an industry that has a talent problem. So we will work at different areas, but our primary focus is once the employee is in the door, how do we retain them? How do we help them to advance? How do we get them to first level leadership? And then how do we create the resilience in terms of succession within the organization? And making sure that that is not only inclusive, but that it is representative of the company's customer base as well as their community base. You know, if you're sitting in a community, who do you need to be hiring within that community as well?
Yeah. What kind of companies are you typically working with? Larger, smaller, certain industries? You mentioned, what was it?
Insurance industry.
Yeah.
Yeah, primarily larger organizations. We work with a lot of multinationals. We work with organizations that are multifaceted, meaning they have multiple divisions. Yeah. And I think the smallest client we have right now is probably 10,000 employees. So we work with larger organizations. However, small ones call us for various things. But our primary focus is the insurance sector, manufacturing, and we do a lot of work with service-based companies that are doing basically customer-driven service. We also have a sector in hospital and healthcare. So that's a pretty broad spectrum of companies that we work with.
And I think if I remember right, when we talked before, you're working with a lot of international companies internationally at this point, especially because of all the DEI craziness going on in the U.S. right now.
Yeah, so we started working in Brazil this year, and we're expanding into South America. We've always worked in the Caribbean because I'm originally from Jamaica, so we will do work within the Caribbean. and my business partner is from Spain. So we do some work in Spain and in Europe as well. So we have a couple clients that are they're multi-jurisdictional. We have one client that's in Southeast Asia. We have another one that's in China and in the Malaysia, Australia region. And we have a lot of clients that are in Europe. So one of the things that we were forced to do, and not just today, not because of the current climate, I've been around long enough to have gone through the 2000 crisis, the 2007, 8, 9 crisis, and so on. So one of the critical things that I've done is to divest the company a lot more than just sticking to the U.S. market, making sure that we have a good landscape of organizations that we work with that are U.S. based as well as non-U.S. based.
Yeah, for sure. And so I don't pick up the Jamaican accent. Can you turn it on when you need to?
I turn it on when I need to. It's so funny because when my husband and I are talking, it's like, okay, wait, and my kids will get all chimed in too, and it's quite funny, quite hilarious.
Yeah, when you get worked up or excited about something that starts coming out. Yeah, very good, cool. Well, I'm excited to jump into the governance stuff and maybe hit that first, but. Maybe you could start off and just kind of talk about what you're doing in that area, what the landscape's looking like. I imagine most of the people that are going to be listening to this podcast are not nearly as familiar as you are with this area, both because of your history with risk and governance, but now with this AI stuff. I'll turn it back over.
Yeah, so I have a pretty unique background. For most folks coming to HR and they land in HR and they're literally happily in HR. I didn't land in HR. My original role was risk management in the insurance sector. So my first job out of college was in insurance. I've worked in the insurance sector for a long time. I went into risk management, and I was hired by a large corporation here in Florida, and the company walked in the door. I took the job as the director of risk management, and 6 weeks later, the owner of the company walked in my door, peeped her head around the corner, and said, "Oh, by the way, do you know HR?" I said, "No, I'm a risk manager. I know safety, I know risk management, I know principles around making sure that we cover any exposure in the organization. I know nothing about HR, except the fact that I filled out some paper to get hired." She says, "Well, I kind of fired the HR lady." "What do you mean you fired?" What is that? Define that for me, because I'm not clear on what you're just saying to me. "Oh, yeah, I fired her." "Okay, great. So what are we hiring? You want me to help you hire somebody?" No, I'm giving you HR. "And I talked to the lawyer, and I'm hiring you a full-time lawyer to help you learn HR." "Really? Really?" Wow. 14,000 employees, 17 states, day labor industry where we hired people during the day and tried not to kill them all day long.
So you must have had a team, though, to come in, right, to hopefully support you. 14,000 employees?
I was the one lady HR, and I had the lawyer on speed dial. And I would call him in the morning, and I would be pulling my hair out. How do I terminate somebody? What do I do? How does this work? And so on and so forth. I ended up going back to school to study HR. And so that's how I ended up in HR. But for me, I've always been a risk manager, handling workplace situations, workplace issues. And so I did workers' comp for many years. And that the workers' comp work prepares you for the HR work, because you're handling employee injuries, you're handling their employment, their termination, settling their cases, handling litigation for the organization. So I had that piece of it. What I didn't have is the EOC, the ADA, a
lot of the compliance side of
client side of things, the moving parts of HR. Right, I didn't have that. So I eventually learned, and then I left that organization to start my own company, and incorporated over time HR with the risk management, and slowly started with small companies, small organizations, building HR policies and really learning that whole, how do you govern HR for a small company, and then 500, then 1,000, then 10,000, and so on and so forth. So that's my background. So last year, 2024, early 2023, AI is bubbling. And I was a part of some working groups with AI starting in 2019. And I was doing some demo work around AI. And it was more AI for marketing as a business owner. How do you use AI to write content? How do you use AI to write a better article or whatever? It was not in the sense of where we are today.
Yeah.
In 2024, one of the cadences that I have as an HR person and risk manager is I continue to get legal feeds into my email box every day. As a risk manager, that's a part of our cadence. We watch legal feeds because legal precedents anywhere in the U.S. creates an exposure for a risk within your organization. So I subscribe to LexisNexis and a few other places, and I get feeds every day on legal cases that have been filed. And some days I read them more than others. And it just so happened that this particular day I read about a case called Mobley v. Workday, Mobley v. Workday. And I read the case in 2024, and it was just filed around algorithmic discrimination. Really? And initially, I don't know that the plaintiff knew the wording because the words didn't exist. There wasn't a word called algorithmic discrimination in 2023.
Is that like adverse impact, essentially, but with AI? Yeah.
But with AI.
Yeah.
So I don't know that the word algorithmic discrimination was the thing. What the individual was describing was, I've applied for 100 jobs. I've used the Workday software, and I've been eliminated at 3 a.m. in the morning. I mean, I filled out the application at 1:05, and by 2:45, when I hit send and entered, and by 2:45, I had a rejection, right? And I did that 100 times. I did that at 1 a.m. in the morning. I did that at 2 a.m. in the morning, at 5 a.m. in the morning. And I live in California. So if I'm doing it at, 1 a.m. California time, there shouldn't be an HR person in New York up and watching.
Sure.
And there's no way you could make a decision about my employment in 10 minutes or 15 minutes of me hitting apply to the job. So this individual gathered all the applications he had done, and all were on the Workday platforms. And he eventually gathered all the nuts and said, hey, this looks like a nice round thing, something is happening. And he found an attorney up in Oakland, California, and he filed suit. And that became one of the few cases. Then I started seeing other cases. There was HireVue. There was one with CVS. There was one with, so the cases started getting longer and longer, right? The Mobley case was significant because initially one judge dismissed it, another judge brought it forward, and then finally it was certified as class action. Around the same time, I started searching about the impact of AI on talent. And I found reports that were written by the World Economic Forum in 2016 and 2015 and 2014 that if AI becomes a thing, it's going to impact the world of work. And then by 2019, there was more reports. And by 2020, there was more reports. But this is before we had ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini. This is before all of this.
Before the language models started coming out,
Right. This was before this. And so then there was a huge report that was put out saying that the majority of the impact of AI will be on women because women are in jobs that can be automated. But these reports came out before there was an explosion of ChatGPT. So the research had already been there about what could happen.
Sure.
But it's pretty largely ignored. So I started more and more research. I actually have a folder on my computer with about 200 research reports, right? A PhD in talent disruption almost around AI.
Well, yeah. So I mean, there's not too many people actively reading case law like that if they're not an attorney.
If they're not an attorney, you're not reading case law. You're not reading research work. You're not reading things from the United Nations, from World Economic Forum, from all these various places, from Davos. Every year people run off to Davos to talk about this exact thing, the impact of AI on. But this happened before ChatGPT.
Yeah.
Right? So I submitted to speak at South by Southwest this year, and I spoke 2025, South by Southwest. I spoke on the radical economics of up-leveling women for an AI future. And that speech sort of spiraled. The folks in Brazil were attending. They asked me to come to Brazil to talk about the topic. I spoke at the Association of Training and Development. I was a main stage speaker there around the same issue. Who's going to get left behind? That has now spawned into my new book, which is When AI Breaks the Law, is the title of the book, AI Governance for Talent Leaders, because AI hasn't broken the law. We just haven't figured out that it has.
Right.
And it can, and it will, and it's going to.
Sure.
So that's sort of the space that I've kind of landed, which is a hybrid between the work I do in inclusivity and the work I do around risk management and governance.
Sure.
And bringing the two together to say, hello, everybody, we need to govern this. This is not just, let's go implement the AI. And then over this year, there are more and more companies that I've seen come out that says, well, we're not hiring people, we're hiring AI first. Forget people, AI first. What does that do for the long-term future of the next generation?
It's interesting. It's, maybe 5-10 years ago, as virtual machines started becoming popular, like companies don't even need to buy hardware or computers anymore. They can just get virtual machines, and it's more secure because you're basically just getting pixels on a monitor, right? And you're driving around with a mouse and keyboard, but the data isn't there. The data can be stored back. That's almost essentially what's now happened with AI, is you're not having to buy the human. You're just buying the AI brain behind it to kind of do these jobs and stuff. But I remember we had talked, California has some laws or policy, New York, I think, and you mentioned, I think, Chicago even going on. So, and now there's the executive order that the president just put out that states are not allowed to do that stuff. I don't know how that actually trickles down, but I didn't consider you for a national company or a global company. Now your HR, you got to figure out how to comply with all these different rules from different states. So it does, from that perspective, make sense that you only have, a single source that you have to understand at the federal level. But at the same time, if that's not doing the job, right, then how do you address that? So anyway, curious, Nick, what's your thought on all that, and where are things going?
So here's my thought. There's two camps. Part of the book that I'm writing, When AI Breaks the Law, is based on the EU AI Act. The European Union has passed an AI Act. The AI Act has gone into effect. It was worked through in 2024. Parts of it went into effect this year. The bulk of it will come online in 2026, August 2nd. Okay. It is a clear governance blueprint. Brazil was the first country to make an AI law. The EU saw the law in Brazil. They took the Brazil portion and they made the EU AI Act. Singapore has an EU Act. Japan has one coming online. China even has one that they're working through. Parts of Southeast Asia, different countries are looking at pulling from the Singapore law, which pulls from the EU AI Act. So the U.S. is now taking this weird stance that we don't want to govern AI, right? We're going to be the free willy of the world. Let's just be free, okay? Yeah. But Texas decided, because when the big, beautiful bill was being done, the budget bill earlier this year, there was a provision in there to stop AI laws from being enacted in the U.S. Okay. Texas saw that, and they quickly went out and made a law. They pulled from the EU AI Act, and they dropped one into Texas.
Got it.
Chicago, the city, created one around how we select candidates. How do we use AI in candidate selection? Other cities, New York, passed one based on the unions in New York saying, hey, this is what we're going to do. Colorado has a quasi-law. California has one on the books. I don't know that it got signed into law yet now that this executive order is there. I'm sure someone will litigate this executive order. Yeah. The challenge with all of this, Aaron, is AI needs governance.
Yeah.
Period. Even if the U.S. decides to be free willy and not put a law in, right? And we just want to say we're not going to have any kind of laws, that does not prevent employees from filing suit. We don't have laws right now.
Or AI
we don't have any
breaking laws that exist, right? Yeah.
Exactly. So the current rules is the desperate impact, the selection process. Today in the talent cycle, AI is being used in hiring.
Yep.
It's being used in talent selection. It's being used maybe video interviewing, right? It's being used in maybe we're using it to pick out high potentials. We're using different things for people to put in their information on their career pathing. We're using it in career pathing. We're using it in development, succession planning. There's all kinds of places that AI is touching talent.
Yep.
But no one is understanding the risk of that happening and how much exposure is being created from a discrimination standpoint. And here's a critical thing. Organizations are using their historic talent data to train the AI models. Every company that comes in the door says to them, give me your hiring data and we'll find you the ideal candidate. That's AI taking your historic data and looking at your historic data. If your historic data was biased and skewed towards one kind of person,
right,
your AI model is being trained on that.
Yeah.
So the AI is not going to go out and discriminate on its own. It's taking your historic data it's finding what you like and it's enhancing it and trying to please you. It's not being programmed. It's being trained.
Yeah, it's predictive. If you get into the way that it works, for sure. Yeah, it's objective. It's all objective until we touch it.
Exactly.
Right, and give it our own biases.
Right. It's all objective until we begin to start working with it. And the more input we put into it, the more expectation it has and the more it says, oh, okay, that's what you like. I'm going to make more of that. Right?
Yeah.
So it's not going out to say, I'm going to break the law for you. It's not going out to say, I'm going to discriminate for you. It's not going out to say, I'm going to be a bad AI for you. What it is saying is, tell me who you are, and I'm going to give you more of who you are.
Right. Yeah. And it can even exponentially potentially create more adverse impact. So it sounds like adverse impact is really kind of the big kind of piece of this, right? That unintentional discrimination. Like we didn't mean to, but the system inherently did it. And part of the reason why that is the road is because AI doesn't discriminate on its own, but HR doesn't understand how to govern AI. We don't understand what governance means. Yeah. And so part of what my goal is to explain to HR what governance really means. Yeah.
It means that we control the algorithm. The biggest thing that came out of the Workday case is the judge ruled your contract doesn't immune you from the discrimination that your AI creates.
Sure.
Your vendor cannot immune you from the discrimination your AI creates. You, HR, are responsible for knowing what you are putting into the AI and what the possible results are on the other end.
So in other words, it's the responsibility of the HR company buying Workday, not Workday themselves with their... Because is it the company then? I don't know how Workday stuff works, but is it the company that's essentially customizing the Workday AI to fit their own company? So you can't hold Workday accountable. They're just the platform.
Right. But they are accountable because they should have said...
everyone's a little bit accountable, right?
Yeah, everybody's a little bit accountable in the process. Yeah. But what is bubbling to the top is the AI vendor can't indemnify you from liability, Mr. or Miss Employer. Okay. Yes, the AI company is equally yoked to you. You're both in this together. So oftentimes, HR professionals feel that if we put it in the contract will protect us from the exposure. The contract really doesn't protect you. The contract doesn't indemnify you, which I go back to my insurance days. It doesn't indemnify you from exposure. It has a way of connecting you to the exposure because the AI vendor, the software vendor, can say, that's the data you gave me. We trained the AI on your data. Right. Your data was already discriminating before we came along.
Yeah.
And we showed it to you. And now I think they will start showing it. Here's what we found in your data. What do you want us to do about it?
Right.
Right.
So how do you find that out? Is it the same type of adverse impact? Is it what's it called? Not the 80-20 rule. What's the 5/4 rule? Is that essentially what we need to be doing then, and to check that data before it goes into AI?
Yep. You need to check the data. You need to clean the data. You need to make sure that the data is not going to create that adverse impact. You also have to know how the data itself, how the algorithm for the software is trained. How is, when a vendor comes to you, so I'm an HR director or CHRO, and I'm at a conference and I'm in the exhibit hall and I'm looking for software, and I go to all the vendors and I get a vendor, and the vendor says, our software is anti-bias. What does that mean? And sometimes those buzzwords are all HR wants to hear, because we have been attuned as HR leaders, and I consider myself one. We are attuned to the buzzwords. Anti-discrimination, unbiased, clean algorithm. But what does that mean? And so we have to ask governance questions around what it means, how the AI is trained, what are the formulas that it's going to devise on its own. Even if I give it clean data, what assumptions will the AI make? Because you have built in those parameters inside of the back end of it that I'm not seeing. And so there's a terminology called black box, where we, this is a black box process.
Yeah.
Okay, so, but if it's in the black box and I don't know what's in the black box, I got to figure that out. We cannot be passive participants in the AI process as HR leaders.
Yeah. So then what does an HR leader, aside from this, being aware and understanding the data, I mean, what are you kind of recommending then for companies as they're trying to navigate, all these different laws coming out, or no law, or the laws being changed, and I don't know. I guess you can make these governance rules, but at the end of the day, you still got to follow Title VII, the Civil Rights Act in 1964. That at the end of the day, it all, when I teach recruiting and interviewing, it all comes down to that, right? And a few others, ADA and whatnot, but those laws haven't changed, and it's just a different application, I guess.
The laws haven't changed, the application hasn't changed, but what has changed is the AI. So part of what governance looks like is the HR leader now needs to figure out where is AI in our current system? Where is it? Right? And what is it exactly doing?
Yeah.
we have to map every single piece of software, even if the software is a multifaceted software like Workday. It does a little of this, a little of that, a little of that, a little of that, right? Even if it's a multifaceted software, we need to know the exact places that the software is touching the talent cycle. So here's the critical part at the very top of this pyramid. There's AI governance for the organization. That is not what we're talking about, right? A lot of organizations have IT level driven AI governance. The IT department, your software folks, your risk people are going to have a governance that overarches the organization. That's not what we're talking about.
That's more privacy related too, right? Making sure IP doesn't get out into the system. And
Yes, exactly. What we are talking about is a smaller subset, the talent subset. And when you narrow it down to the talent subset, I've watched some people on LinkedIn say, well, HR should own governance. No, you shouldn't. There's governance for the organization. You own governance for HR. That's what we own. We have to first map every single place that AI is currently touching our talent cycle. We have to know what the AI is doing. We have to do evaluation on what results. We also have to look at human in the loop. Are there human safeguards at every single point where the AI touches the talent cycle? Human in the loop is a critical piece of the governance process. Can a human make a decision at every step of the process? The Mobley case said, if a human is not making a decision in the talent cycle, that is a liability.
But humans can be just as biased. I mean, that's where adverse impact came in the first place, right?
Right. Humans can be just as biased, but it doesn't address that. It doesn't say, well, is the biased human touching it? What it's saying is the algorithm can't make its own decisions. If the algorithm is making its own decision, then you have a bias problem right off the bat. Right? So what we have to do is look at human in the loop. Where do we need to evaluate the results? We don't just take the results on face value. I'll give you an example. I was working with an organization about 4 years ago, and their thing was, we don't hire enough young people. So I said, okay, give me your data. Give me all of your data. Let me look at it, right? Scrub your data. I just want to know names and the age of the people that are applying and so on. So it wasn't that they weren't getting applicants who were young, because that was their original thing. We're not getting a lot of young people. Yes, you were. You were getting thousands of young people, but your interview process eliminated them after the initial interview. Right?
Based on experience or for whatever reason?
For whatever reason, we don't hire young people in this particular office. That kind of thing. The mentality of
could be a cultural
fit, whatever the terminology is that eliminated the young people. So when we did the evaluation, we showed them that on average, 9 out of 10 person under 30 was eliminated after the first interview. To the end, the problem is not the fact that people aren't applying. They are applying. They're being eliminated after the first interview.
Sure. Although that's not discriminatory. Got to be over 40.
Right. It's
that's not breaking a law. Right? It's discriminating, but not in a legal way.
In a legal way, right. Yes. So now we go back and say, well, what was the reason all those people got eliminated? Well, they didn't have enough experience. Okay, so how do we create a mentorship program or an apprenticeship program? So if we get people coming in at that level and we think they're bright and they can do the job, we don't eliminate them because they don't have experience. We give them a chance and put them into apprenticeship program, right? Yeah. So that was the through line. Right now, if the algorithm is eliminating every 23-year-old and we don't have a person there looking at it to say why, what happened, what can we do about it, it's just going to keep going.
Right. Yeah, you gotta have enough data to be able to make those assessments, but you actually have to look at the data.
Have to look at the data. Yeah. And so that's the human in the loop requirement now when algorithms are making those decisions.
Yeah.
Then we have to look at how we train people. There's a training component, and this comes from the EU AI Act. There's a training component around AI literacy for HR. That is a requirement in the EU side of the house, but it should be the same requirement across the board. We should be making sure that HR leaders are AI literate. And AI literacy is not being able to do a prompt, right? It's not being able to write a prompt. AI literacy is understanding the entire algorithmic process, not at a technical level, but at a layperson's level, so that you could say, oh, wait, the AI did that. It eliminated 5 women. All the women in this department got eliminated. So you can say, oh, these are the things I should be looking for. And these are the things that happened. Oh, wait, I spotted that. And then you can now create levers where people can report it and say, I saw something weird. I saw something that's an outlier. Maybe we should check to see what the algorithm is doing. That's governance.
Yeah.
That's governance. Yeah. Governance is not this piles of documents. It is the process of seeing it, finding it, asking the questions, stopping it, readjusting, going back to the vendor to say, hey, we found this in our system. What can we do to fix it? And documenting that whole cycle.
Yeah.
Right? Because without that, you have nothing to legally stand on. Imagine trying to investigate a discrimination case when the discrimination isn't caused by a person, it's caused by an algorithm that you don't understand.
Yeah, sure. Which I think it's almost, that's not new, right? It's just a lot more sophisticated.
It's a lot more sophisticated.
Because we still use computers to help us make those decisions and give us the data. But the way it gives us that data is, like you said, black box, I think is a good term for that, because we don't, we understand less and less and less about what's going into that actual decision and what data we're actually getting.
Right, exactly.
But I do think, this is something I'm fingers crossed. I applied it. I'm in the final stages for a TEDx TED Talk, and it's going to be about AI can make us more human, right? Which is kind of a backwards thing, but the idea is, like, a lot of people I think are seeing this as a way to do less, to think less, right? To outsource having to do the hard stuff so that we can, be more efficient. And the intention, I think, is good. And actually, I love the story you told me about what you were doing with AI and building software in AI Studio on Google's AI Studio and showing it to your son. But we can use it to upskill ourselves, right? And be better. It's just a matter of, I think, focusing it and being intentional, I think, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, and so here's the open door for upskilling, right? The challenge that I see right now, because I'm teaching or facilitating the AI in instructional design and talent development. And one of the through themes that has come through every class I've taught, and we have usually about 27 students in every cohort that I do the workshop for. The one through line is, my organization is limiting my access to AI. That is the first through line. They've decided that we should only use this particular model and we should only do this particular thing with it. I had one person in one of my classes, and she said, well, they gave us a list of prompts and these are the only ones we can use.
Yes.
But the prompts aren't applicable to anything, right? So the second part is, well, they gave us Copilot, but we don't really know what Copilot does, and this is the only thing we can use. We can only use Copilot. There's nothing wrong with Copilot, but you can't just give people AI and go, here you go.
Yeah.
One of the critical things that we have right now is adoption of the AI in the workplace. But what we are doing is treating the AI process like we did everything else. the question I asked when I was speaking at ATD earlier this year at the conference was, is learning gated or is it open access? Right? When it comes to AI, learning has to be open access. You can't just pop a tool onto somebody's computer and say, go use the tool. One of the critical things that I learned from facilitating the AI and talent development is most of the people who attend the class don't understand the basis of prompting. Right? They don't understand the foundation of prompting.
Right.
But those folks are in talent development. If talent development doesn't, an instructional design, right? And they're the ones who are creating and crafting training for the organization. And if they don't know how to use the software, how do you train the software if you don't know how to use the software? And if the IT department is making the governance decisions around the risk in the organization and not focus on the HR side of it, which is training the people in the organization to be effective users of the AI,
right,
we will not move this needle. So we have a double problem, which is why governance comes into play. Because governance comes into play because if you do governance right in HR, you can equally advocate for upskilling in the organization itself. You can say, effective governance means that we upskill every person in the organization so that every person in the organization has access to learning. That's governance.
Right.
Right? And so what is happening now is the organization risk level, the AI overall arching of the organization, the governance overarching is creating these pockets of rules that are actually stopping people at the lowest level in the organization from learning AI effectively, because they have taken the blanket rule around intellectual property and protecting intellectual property and forgotten that, yes, we can protect intellectual property while we give people the ability to learn the software effectively.
Right. Yeah, so it's a double-edged sword, right? If they don't know enough about it and they can't actually use it, they're not going to be able to use it effectively. So you can't just, you can't control it, but you also can't have it be Wild West either. So.
Right. But what ends up happening is people get frustrated with the AI guardrails in-house, and they're using the AI on their phone. Yeah,
they go to Gemini or something outside of work, for sure. Yeah.
Right. So they use it on their phone, they copy and paste, they write, they type, they sit there and type off whatever the AI told them on their phone, and they plop it into your system. You're none the wiser. Wouldn't it be easier if HR understood the AI process so that they could create an effective governance language that included upskilling and up-leveling everyone in the organization?
Yeah, that's great. This is awesome. I wish we weren't out of time and we could keep going, but this was really cool. We'll have to have you come back and we can keep the discussion going. But this is great. Do you have is there a way people can get in touch with you, or do you have a schedule for your book coming out and anything you want to plug just kind of as we wrap up?
Yeah, sure. So the book comes out March 1st. And we're fingers crossed. We are in final edit now. And so I've set a date and I keep moving the date, but we're hoping at the very latest, March 12th, the book will be out.
Okay.
We're going to do some soft release in February. The book website, which is not up yet, will be whenaibreaksthelaw.com. But you can reach me at inclusionlearninglab.com. There will be a link there to the book. Nice. And I'm on LinkedIn. I'm always on LinkedIn. So it's Margaret Spence on LinkedIn. Yeah. And but anyone can find out about our programs, our courses. Our programs are on AI governance at inclusionlearninglab.com.
Cool. Awesome. Well, maybe if you have some time once the book comes out, we'll have to come back and we can talk about it and plug the book again. I'm excited to see it. I'm going to definitely get it.
Yeah, definitely.
So it's important stuff. And I've got my own AI software tool, as you know. So I'm trying to stay away from the decision making, and it's about training, but it's still, we want to make sure we're not training people in a way that's creating bias or discrimination either. So great. Well, again, I appreciate you joining on today.
Yeah, I am. And thank you for inviting me. It's been great.
Good. Thank you.